What's up, everyone? You're tuned in to the Channel Eeps episode 157 of your host, EEPMON. And today, I'd like to talk about artist representation or not. Me personally, in my 20 odd career in the creative industries as a digital artist, as an entrepreneur, I do not have an artist rep. I don't have an agent. I'm not represented by anyone or any entity. And it's a choice. It's a choice because usually the so-called sign of that you made it or the sign of success is when you are being represented by an agency, and they would be the ones who will basically market you, shop for you, get you gigs, get you opportunities. Of course, they would probably get a 50% cut at least for every project that they do, but that's their job. Their job, if you are represented, is that they're going to shop around looking for projects where your style, your creativity fits and aligns with the prospective client. Now, I've heard interesting stories. There are pros and there are cons in that world of being represented. For example, not every agent or agency has in your best interest. Perhaps the agency represents a roster of creators, not just you, not just a handful, maybe 30, 50, 100. So when you are being asked, or when I'm being asked if I want to join this agency or whatnot, it is wise to do your due diligence and research about who they are, what they do, what is their reputation, who are they representing, how does your art and your design and your talent stack up against the others, what kind of projects have they secured. So many variables, not just a quantitative aspect, but the qualitative aspect. And I always felt that no matter how much what is the word? No matter how much smooth talking they would say to me, I've always wanted to know the qualitative aspect of their engagements and what they do and who they meet, etc. But anyway, suffice to say, me personally, like I said, I do not have an artist rep, and every person is different. Everyone has their own personality, but I feel that if I am in control, 100% control of myself, my brand, EEPMON, and who I engage, who I collaborate, where I go, I would not have to deal with the middle entity, which is the agency, because once you sign your contract with the agency, now depending on the negotiation, depending on the terms, they're out to get you. They're they're out to take as much as they can from you. They want to own you. And that's sort of that just ties into the whole capitalist mode of our society, which is, I feel, a little bit unethical. And I've heard many stories where I've talked to my peers where they're almost like checkmated, they're kind of in a corner, because as much as they want to engage in a potential collaboration, work on a project, or being shown at another exhibition, they always must consult the agency who has first right of refusal, that kind of thing, right? They have to go through them because they are the representative. They sign the contract so that the rep, no matter what they do, no matter who they engage, what they sell, to whom, they get a cut at every step of the way. It's a business. Like I said, I know artists don't like to hear it, but we are entrepreneurs. And at the end of the day, we're not entrepreneurs. We will have to find somebody who is to represent you, whether it's a gallery, whether it's an agency, whatnot, and they will get a cut. And boy, they want to get a cut because it's a capitalist world. It's money making. So I just always been on my own, and I was sort of like, I was reflecting because of all the projects I worked on, in all the collaborations I worked on, whether it's with agencies, institutions, museums, galleries, even the government. Now, had I been represented by an agency, I dare say things would have been extremely complicated. Because, like I just said earlier, I was thinking in that case, I would always have to go through the agency or representative medium before, and then have the whatever negotiation and terms has to come out, but with the agency involved. It's so complicated. And not only that, most likely they would take, again, a 50% cut on every step of the way, right? I've heard one story where, what is it? How did it go? A friend of mine sold a work of art to some gallery years before they signed up to be represented by another agency, by an agency. So it's just like, imagine me. I sold some artwork. I maybe sold like 10 art pieces at a show. And then later, maybe 3 years later, I signed an agreement with an agency who wants to represent me. But guess what? So what my friend told me is that this agency wanted the percentage of the sales that they sold, he or she, I'm not gonna disclose, that he sold years ago. Even backtrack to claw back some of the money made that even before he or she signed the deal. That's crazy. So that's a whole can of worms. That's a mess. That's ridiculous. And I think that the whole way of engaging just sort of the business behind art is so unethical, I find. I would rather spend my energy like that. That's a lot of energy. Just think about that. Just the mental energy, just to focus on sorting these things out and making sure, the relationships are all good. And you have to make sure, because you signed this contract and you're with this agent. Like, how many years are you with them? Are you with the agency for like 5-year term, 10 years, indefinitely? Imagine what if another agency wants to, this is insane. It would drive me insane if I ever have to go through such details. If I were to be represented by agency, I would ensure I would negotiate the hell out of this thing. There's no freaking way that they would own me. And this is not just an art thing. I think this is in general a corporate culture flaw, huge flaw. Right? That's why I don't have a 9-to-5 job. I don't have I dare say, had I worked at I worked at 9-to-5s before, a long time ago, but I knew it wasn't for me at the very beginning because the corporate culture is just so, for me, it just doesn't work for me. I find that it's just the attitudes, the politics, the just sort of the wasted time for meetings over meetings, and productivity is just not as efficient. And I don't know how I digress to that, but that's just sort of like saying I can't work in that type of environment, you know? So, let alone being under a corporation, being under an agency is no different. That's the connection. I was really gonna digress. I should do an episode about just corporate culture and my experience too. But yeah, so I find that, so that's what I think. That's just my personal opinion. To each their own. I know others who have thrived and done very well, but interesting. These same people have talked. I've talked to those same people who are extremely talented. I'm telling you, the people that I've been talking to are very talented, super talented. Worked on incredible multinational brands, and they come to me complaining, saying how frustrating it is. Even at their level, they come to me and talk about the politics behind all these things. It's very toxic. So now that being said, being doing things on your own ain't easy either. Okay? They don't teach you how to be an entrepreneur. They don't teach you how to be a business person, financially literate in the art world, let alone doing things, your creativity, and getting your work out into the open. I had to figure these things all myself. I got to figure out the do's and don'ts. I had to make many mistakes. I had to throw myself out there, very awkward. That's how we learn. We trial and tribulations, trial and error. Um, and it's not easy, yeah, because like how not only do you have to create artwork that we were passionate about, but we have to also need to learn how to engage our work to the world, let alone getting someone to buy it, or just making a sale. And at the same time, you have to also, in a way, be emotionally balanced at every step of the way, right? I know that selling an artwork, it's emotion, it's very powerful. It's very moving. Wow, thank you for buying my work. Really appreciate it. But we, as entrepreneurs too, we have to check our emotions and making sure that we can pat ourselves in the back, congratulate ourselves, but we must move on because time's ticking and the universe does not wait for anybody. We always have to be hungry, always be extremely aware, heightened awareness, build the intuition, know how to market, how to get our work out there, and it never ends. We live and we breathe it. So, choose your poison. Well, honestly, I really, me personally, again, it comes down to personality, your attitude. I absolutely love what I do. I absolutely live and breathe it. I enjoy it. I'm so thankful and grateful that I am not reliant or anchored by any person, any entity. It is all me. I'm 100% accountable. It is my investment, my risk. No one's really holding my hand to navigate through the murky waters because, because I'm maybe stubborn. I'm very selfish. I represent myself. I am my own brand. You're engaged with me. You're engaged with EEPMON in its totality. So it's, for me, and maybe it takes a little longer to get yourself established because you have to also build the business acumen, build the business relationship. Whereas perhaps these agencies have already fostered strong relationships with creative agencies, design firms, etc. Like my fellow friends have connections to. So maybe I have to work extra hard. But you know what? I enjoy it. I do enjoy it. Because honestly, if you're able to centralize your focus on yourself without any third party to dictate how you are perceived to their clientele, you have to control. You control your entire narrative. That's a very powerful thing, and I think that that is uh, that has more impact and more uh, importance or significance to me than to whether get a big lucrative client. I rather have control of my destiny than, oh, I wish I had that big project. Because at the end of the day, once the project's done, and it's over. What but what you only have one shot at is ensuring that you are represented well and that you have full control of your brand equity, your brand reputation. So if someone's gonna represent my brand, it's gonna might as well be me. No one knows it better than I do, right? So that's what I've been thinking these days. It's a bit of a tug of war, but I'm not saying that. Okay, let's look at how things are right now. I'm not represented by anybody, but that doesn't mean I'm not closing that door forever. Maybe one day through the grapevine of the grand universe, and then my work scales and continues to grow and whatnot, and finish these big projects, get more recognized, and then maybe the agent will drop by. Hey, maybe there's a fit there. I'm not saying that all agencies are bad or that that they control you like a hawk, or they're watching you like a hawk. Know that there is always room for negotiation. Communication is key. That's one thing again. I don't know. I'm just generalizing, but us artists, we have a hard time communicating, expressing our thoughts through verbal communication. We're good at art. We're good at expressing through creativity, but things like negotiation, communication, goes a long way too. Maybe they need to teach that in school too. Anyway, but if that day does happen, they approach me, I'm not going to close the door. I'll open to discussion, knowing very well and making sure they know very well that I'm not a pushover. And perhaps based on my previous projects I worked on, the experience I've gained, the reputation, etc., I certainly have leverage to be in a position to find a middle ground where both parties can agree upon. I'm just thinking out loud here. That's sort of like the what is the next step for EEPMON? But yeah, that's what my thoughts. But certainly, I would say that I am happy and I'm glad that I've chosen this particular path. It's a little slower to grow because I have more time to really finesse and see the direction I want to take it. And also, I like it because there's no barriers. I really don't have no barriers. I can completely creatively explore beyond the means of just like me doing digital art, right? I can engage and collaborate with anybody. I have a saying that I can work with them, but I cannot work in them. You know what I mean? Like I can work with, but I cannot work in. If I'm in, then I'm already the idea of working in something is already creating this box, this cage. So, anywho, I just thought I talk a bit about that. Like and subscribe, appreciate it. And this is all about, artist representation or not. This is episode 157 of the channel Eves. Thank you for listening and have a great day, afternoon, and evening. Goodbye.